there could be some potential challenges, well, many potential challenges in all of this because so many different family dynamics get in the way, that the first generation created wealth is so invested to making sure this legacy lives on. What's to assure that the generations to follow are going to feel the same way? And now that they don't have someone who is a little bit of a dictator, that how are they going to make decisions collaboratively?
Well, that's the problem. So there's a lot in what you're saying, and let me kind of divide up some of the key points. First of all, what's very interesting to me is all over the world there are different cultures, and I've spoken to families, and yet the personality of the entrepreneur, whether he or she is Chinese, Indian, European, Western, American, North American, South American, the entrepreneurial personality is a driving person, is an obsessed person, is a person who's very controlling, who listens but kind of does things the way that he wants to do it, and so tends to be somewhat controlling. Now, I would say this is a great strategy for starting a business, and this yet as a strategy, it doesn't really lend itself to creating a great family. So there are a number of things that come up in entrepreneurs. One is that the entrepreneur is usually a person that hasn't come from great wealth and is new to wealth. And so my colleague Jim Grubman and I have written about the idea that the wealth creator is an immigrant to wealth, and their children are what we call natives to wealth. They grow up in a culture of wealth, and this is a challenge. So dictating to people is a great way sometimes to build a business and to get results, but think about that in terms of how it affects the children. So one of the things that we see in families generally and in business families is what we call paternalism. And paternalism is where you make decisions for somebody because you feel like they're not capable and you care about them, but you think you can do a better job than they can. So when you're raising children and when they're very young, being paternalistic is keeping them safe and protecting them. So now the challenge in building the next generation is paternalism, when you get older, tends to have some adverse effects. So you're making decisions for people. They're 12, they're 13, they're 16, 18, and all of a sudden making decisions for them begins to have less of a positive effect. When does it end? When do you say, well, I've been making decisions for you kids, that's really nice, now you're on your own, or now you can begin to decide for yourself? And a lot of families, they don't do that. And one of the things that's very common in families is we've all heard about Warren Buffett and the Giving Pledge, and the idea that families would say to their kids, well, I've made all this money, but I'm going to give most of it away. And that's a wonderful choice to make, but how does it affect the children? How much are they part of the discussion? So I think the challenge in paternalism is to kind of understand that making decisions for your kids has to stop, and there has to be a shift to listening and taking their ideas into account and working together. And the successful families that I've interviewed have been able to create this family culture of working together rather than and moving beyond paternalism.